keep rolling then. Okay, welcome everyone to session 2, room 3. Just a quick note for our presenters, if you weren't in the last session, if you have multiple slides in your presentation, please let me know when I should advance through the presentation so I can match what you're saying with the slides. Also, I'll send you reminders on the time if you're presenting in the chat function. So if you'd like to know when you have 1 minute remaining or when to wrap up, make sure your chat box is open. Everyone will have 3 minutes to present and we'll have about 5 minutes for questions. So with that, maybe would our judges like to introduce themselves really quickly? Just share your name and maybe where you're from.
Hi, I'm Tim Gustafson. I'm in the Department of Writing Studies and currently coming from South Minneapolis.
Thanks, Tim.
Hi, I'm Mindy Granley, and I am calling in today from the city of Duluth as our sustainability officer, and I'm the former sustainability director at UMD.
Thanks, Mindy.
I'm Greg Plowski. I'm a professor in the physics department.
All right, thank you. I think that might be all of our judges. Let me know if I missed anyone. Nope. Okay. I think in that case, we can get ready to go with the first presentation for this room, which will be Chandra, Herr. I'll get it queued up, and then Chandra, you can, it looks like actually this is a pre-recorded one, so.
Jessica?
Yep.
Am I in the wrong room?
No, you're in the right room. Does your judging rubric not match up?
Right. And I didn't think I was doing presentations. I thought I was doing creative.
Oh, you are. Yep. These are, we had to change. It's a little bit of a different format online, but these are posters and creative works.
Okay.
So yeah, there'll be a short verbal presentation and then a chance for questions afterwards.
All right.
Yes,
I don't have anybody named Chandra on my.
No. Do you have,
First person is Gayatri.
Oh, there may be, you might just be missing a box. Do you think you could, at the end of your form, just add a box for Chandra and fill that column out?
Okay.
Sorry about the confusion there.
It's all right.
All right, then we'll go ahead and get started.
I chose to highlight the renewable energy influences of Germany after my study abroad trip in January with Dr. Sabina Engel and the issue of limited CSS access in LMI households in Minnesota from Dr.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. We're gonna restart.
Gabe Chan's research in the Chan Labs and wanted to see how I could relate the two together to inspire change. A few cities in both Minnesota and Germany are part of an international partnership called Climate Smart Municipalities, where they are teamed together with a sister city and learn from one another how their own city can adapt to climate change through proactive examples such as switching to clean renewable energy. The city of Saarbrück in particular is a strong example of community-driven change, fueled by the needs and demands of their people while also encouraging cooperative ownership of renewable energy and revitalization of the environment. Minnesota has already made some rapid progress in becoming climate smart, as they are currently home to the largest set of CSS programs in the country. Policies set in place to expand solar access are the Next Generation Act of 2007 and the Solar Energy Legislation of 2013. Aimed more specifically at the expansion of solar access for LMI households are the Strategic Solar Action Plan from the Minnesota Department of Commerce and organizations like Cooperative Energy Futures, who work with LMI customers to get them signed up for CSS programs with no minimum credit score. Assisting with utility bill payments and energy efficiency programs are Community Action Partnership, LIHEAP, and WAP. Some policy recommendations for Minnesota are to perhaps allocate the funds that are given to orgs like LIHEAP and WAP to instead educate LMI customers on CSS benefits, while also maybe even assisting with signing up for those programs. In addition, calling on revision and modification of CSS programs currently available would play a key component in expanding LMI access and is currently being addressed in legislative bills HF 3368 and SF 3299. Moving toward progressive action such as this will ensure the energy burden to go down, while also providing equitable opportunities for Alamri customers and caring for the sustainability of the environment. I am now open to questions.
Hi, Chandra. This
Hi.
is Mindy Granley. I was wondering if you could back up and just explain about the two programs, LIHEAP, and there was one other, and what relation those have and how those diverted resources might impact them and promote community solar subscriptions.
Yeah, so LIHEAP and WAP really focus on promoting energy efficiency in low to moderate income homes. And so they receive funding federally, I believe. And I just feel like they could be doing more in moving low to moderate income households towards renewable energy so that we are decreasing the energy burden level while also moving towards a more progressive climate action mindset.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess question. So, what were some of the things like these programs could do for the low income? Like for instance, since there's solar in your title, did they offer the ability to fund them to get solar panels?
Not necessarily funding to get solar panels on their own homes or rental properties, but rather instead signing them up for community solar subscription programs through like renewable energy credits.
And is this that there's some power company that's getting power from solar panels and it's going to their, or how exactly does that work?
Yeah, so I think mostly in Minnesota it is through Xcel Energy. And so legislative bill HF 3368 actually calls upon Xcel Energy to modify their current program so that more moderate to low income households are able to sign up without that minimum credit check, or, you know, and just modifying it so that there are equitable opportunities for them.
Chandra, this is Mindy again.
Hi.
I see a graph that says progress of Minnesota's community solar program, and I see yellow bars and orange bars, but I can't quite zoom in. Perfect. If you could maybe just explain what this graph is telling us, that would be helpful.
Yeah, so that is showing the operating capacity compared to the design and construction of community solar programs in Minnesota. So in February, they reached like the highest capacity at 662, I think it was megawatts. I can't recall. So that is just kind of showing the trends of the growing community solar program in Minnesota.
Thank you.
Any other judge questions? All right, if not, we'll move on to the next presentation. Thank you very much, Chandra. Next up, we have Gayatri. I'll get your presentation ready, and then you can begin whenever you're prepared.
Oh, I was wondering, before you start that, I saw in chat there was a link to the poster. Are there links to the other posters as well?
Yes, I think it's...
I'm sending them as the presenters come up, so I'll keep sending you the links.
Yeah, that's very helpful. It's otherwise very hard to see the poster.
May I start?
Yep, I'm getting your presentation pulled up. Okay, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Gayatri. And this is a poster that I made for a directed research in the plant and microbial biology department. So this poster was made in collaboration with Black Baza Coffee Company, which is based in Bangalore, India, where I'm from. So Black Baza Coffee partners with 392 producers in the BR Hills region in Karnataka, India. And most coffee farmers there belong to the indigenous Solega community. And the farmers grow coffee without any chemical fertilizer or pesticides and are actively working to maintain a dynamic ecological balance with the surrounding forest. The company collaborates with farmers to design surveys and analyze ecological and socioeconomic data. This project uses data from participatory monitoring by partner producers conducted in May 2019. So the goal of this project is to develop effective data visualizations to be used by Black Baza Coffee for marketing and outreach. Communicating research and progress in conserving the biodiversity of the region to coffee buyers is critical to the company's mission of increasing awareness around sustainable coffee in India. Outreach among farmers in the BR Hills region is meant to make data more accessible to the community so that research questions and plans for conservation come from the farmers' understanding of both the data and traditional ecological knowledge. So this project does not aim to statistically analyze the data, as more variables are needed for that. However, these visuals are meant to convey basic and important information while identifying areas for further data collection for analysis. So I used the principles outlined in the book Storytelling with Data, and the data that were collected were used to visualize key aspects of coffee cultivation, which were the tree varieties, proportion of native trees, proportion of the exotic silver oak species that we are trying to reduce on farms, the coffee yield and the prices that are offered by different coffee buyers, including Black Baza Coffee Company. And so these visuals were organized into both a poster that's primarily for outreach among the farmers and then a pamphlet for marketing. I'm not sure if the pamphlet is visible yet, but yeah, that's the one. So if we go back to the poster, the poster is in a mix of Kannada and English, and Kannada is the language that's primarily spoken in the region. And the written material in English actually has to be finalized in collaboration with the farmers. So yeah, I think I'm at time, so I'm open to questions.
Hello, this is Greg. So yeah, since it's not in English for these bar graphs, what are these bar graphs referring to?
Yeah, so the first one is native trees. So that's the proportion of native trees. And each bar represents a village. So we took all the data from all the farms in each village and organized it by village. So that's showing you the proportion of native trees. The second one is the tree varieties. The third one is the coffee yield in kilograms per village. The one at the bottom left, is the proportion of silver oak trees, and silver oak is an exotic species that farmers plant mainly because it gives timber. And then the next one is the price of coffee that is offered by companies and merchants who buy the coffee from the farmers. So that's per kilogram of coffee.
So that last one's the price the farmers sell it at?
Yes.
And what is one of these the cost to the farmers?
No. If you want to look at the pamphlet, that the same graph is on the pamphlet. Jessica, could we switch to the pamphlet, please? That one is in English. Yeah. Does that help?
Yeah, it's in English. So.
Hi, this is Mindy.
Hi,
I
Mindy.
was wondering if the importance of the tree varieties, is that related to getting a higher price for your coffee or quality of the coffee, or is it more about just ecological system and having some resiliency?
So it's both. We've definitely found that, and this is not based on research per se, but based on cup tastings of coffee, we have definitely found that farms that have greater diversity of trees, the coffee flavor is much better. And so this is also part of understanding how like sustainability certification can be related to the price of coffee. But then, so it's like it's a complicated mix of like sustainability, coffee pricing, and accessibility to good coffee. So the study is helping us figure that out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And this is Greg again. Is one of the I know you mentioned earlier that this isn't a detailed study right now. You need more variables, but is the eventual outcome to be able to provide statistics to local farmers for them to be able to have a sustainable and profitable business, or what's the eventual goals of this?
So the eventual goal essentially is to make data available, and it is still it's tricky to make the decision about how we want to use this data, because you may get data that says farms that have one species of tree or only grow coffee produce more, right? And so it's tricky for me to say this is what we're going to use it for. But the important thing is that the data is made available to everyone, and then it's a community decision about how it's used, whether or not for profit or prioritizing ecological protection.
Gayatri, this is Tim. Maybe you've alluded to this already, but what do you think is the most interesting or important bit of data that this has come up with? I know it's...
Yeah. For me, I think the tree varieties for me was more interesting, because I'm actually interested to know which of those tree varieties, like what is the actual composition. And so that's something that I actually want to do as a next step, is to work on doing surveys that actually tell us these are the particular varieties of trees, and do like species richness and abundance stuff with that. So that's, for me, that was the most interesting.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Gayatri, and judges for your questions. We're going to move on now to Katie and Luke. So I will get that presentation ready to go. All right, whenever you're ready.
Hey, oh, sorry, I gotta fix my video. I was being a dork last time I was on Zoom. Okay. Nice.
All right.
Am I hearing an
Katie,
echo?
I'm a junior in aerospace engineering here.
Hi, my name is Luke. I'm a senior, about to graduate in aerospace engineering. Yeah. This is our project Currentcy. Can you guys hear me okay? Because I was like hearing some weird stuff.
Yep, you're good.
All right, cool beans.
I wasn't sure if Katie's also talking. I'm not sure if I heard her as well.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, okay.
Super
Awesome.
duper. Right on. So, real quick, this might be a little different than how some people are going. I'm not really sure how this is all gonna, play out. But to start this off, I'll hit us with a quick distinction between energy and electricity. So, energy is at its base one of the fundamental resources of the universe. It's the perhaps fundamental resource of the universe, and electricity is only one form of this transfer of energy. It's one of the four forces is electromagnetism, and we utilize that to transfer energy in many new and interesting ways, and we're approaching much more of that in this near future. Continue.
All right, so one of the big questions, and this is a big question that we wanted to tackle, was how do we approach the public's apprehension to switch to renewable energy sources? You can go to the next slide. So obviously there is a shift occurring in the world towards renewables, but the huge issue with that is there's not a consistent amount of energy being produced. The cost of renewables are going to fluctuate to match this, so depending on the season and the time of day. So we need real-time values that can compare consumption and cost based on the season, the time of day, all sorts of stuff, so that consumers can know these things. You can go to the next slide.
So now addressing how do we actually produce quantitative statistics for residential energy consumption. There are currently a series of tracking tools being utilized in the market. One of them is a concept known as net metering, in which the production of the production of excess power on your side can be returned back to the grid, and you can be monitored by your energy company that you're associated with. There's also an increasing trend in home smart meters, which has been seeing an incredibly large amount of adoption from not only consumers, but also power producers such as Xcel Energy, which offers a stipend. And then there's also many different forms of commercial monitoring as industries and corporations become more interested in, tracking their high fidelity power consumption. Continue.
All right, so the solution that we have come up with is that we understand that consumers need a product that allows them to directly monitor their electricity usage in real time instead of monthly or however your electricity provider currently does it. It would be a current sense transformer, and it would attach to the breakers on the fuse box in your home. So the whole point is you wouldn't need an electrician to come in and do this. This is something you could install yourself. And then you would be able to see historical data and also the energy you're using right now, as well as energy available from renewables, and you could base your consumption around that. You can continue.
Yeah, so actually the device that's on your screen right now just came in the mail. So if you look at my little live screen, I just got it right here. So I'm working on a prototype right now, and essentially it's a non-intrusive metering tool for power consumption. So imagine this was a wire, kind of puts it down. All you got to do is clip it on, and then any power that runs through this wire can then be transferred over through this metering circuit and then into what I'm working on right now, a couple breadboards for metering statistics. And so this device actually already exists, but it's not being streamlined or used in a very intuitive sense for residential adoption, right? I mean, like most people don't understand circuits. It's nobody's fault. It's just not an easy thing to approach. So by providing a very simple, plug and play, clip on, this is sort of the tool that we're thinking of using here.
And then it would also come with a user interface. There would be an app, and you could make this as customizable as you wanted it to be. So it could just be connected to your main breaker, but it could also be connected to your bathroom specifically, your kitchen, your basement, whatever other rooms you would want. You could view the electricity consumption down to whatever specific level you wanted for your particular needs.
So using this data, all right, sorry, I know we're taking a bit of time. I wasn't really prepared, but we can kind of bust through these if we'll hurry. So what can we do with this data? We can use there's many different available opportunistic tech. So for example, Amazon SageMaker is a publicly available deep learning model that provides data, anticipates output, and potential biases in the data that you're influencing. So it can do all your curve fitting and smoothing over long-term models. And then there's also another example of NVIDIA deep learning software development kit, which is very similar to the Amazon SageMaker. And there's another company that I was actually speaking with one of their engineers over the phone recently, and they are using this deep learning model to produce a metering tool for large-scale buildings, so like casinos or hospitals and things. So these kinds of things are already being used for this purpose. And there's a lot of information because it's Amazon. Okay, so this is just really quick to kind of show you what I mean about curve fitting, interpolation. I just made a really quick dummy MATLAB file that took arbitrary random data points in a line and then kind of bent to fit the data. But essentially the idea is you'd be able to have real-time monitoring of your current power consumption, simultaneous historic power consumption metrics, as well as eventually financial models. And so you could see the real-time cost of how much power you're using and how much less you could be using if you maybe oh yeah, forgot to turn off those lights, or maybe it really kind of can produce a connection between the consumer and the thing that is being consumed.
All right, and one last thing here, we just wanted to point out that this product could be marketed to many different types of people. So we've been focusing a lot on individual homeowners, but also this is relevant in both commercial and industrial use. For industrial specifically, it could help people model their business plans around, the financial cost of energy usage. It could give them more data on how to do that. And then commercial use, energy providers could partner with us. They could monitor the electricity usage of their companies more closely, or their customers more closely. And there would be a huge opportunity for incentives to be offered through the energy providers. So those are just a few examples. Sorry, this was kind of a long presentation, but thank you guys for listening to our idea.
Yeah.
We can now take questions.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we've got time for one question from the judges.
Well, I wanted to ask, thanks Katie and Luke, what's the key distinction between this product and things like net metering and Nest for residential customers?
Yeah, so in the current use for those types of things, the tool of net metering is used for when people are, for example, have on-site power production like solar panels or small-scale wind turbines,
Right.
Which is, not everybody has that. So if you want to be having another means of monitoring your power consumption, like using the Google Home Nest or things like that, that is only really relevant to climate control models. And although that is like roughly 1/3 of our energy consumption, it's not 100% of it. And it also isn't entirely electric. This is playing on the assumption of my opinion that we're moving to a point where everything will be electrified. So making sure that we have historic data models and preparing the residential grid for the adoption of full electrical energy, as actually Beth had told me anecdotally, I like the term beneficial electrification. I think that it will make the transition much more seamless. And I think that this retrofitting tool is a great way to sort of scaffold that.
Thanks.
All right, thank you, Katie and Luke. We can also return at the end if we have a little bit of extra time to questions about presentations. For right now, we're going to move on to Mazen. I'll get your presentation ready to go, and then you can start when you're ready.
Sounds good. Hello, everyone. Is it possible if I share so I can zoom to
yeah, I think
where
that's
I want
fine.
to
Here,
emphasis
that's
on?
probably. I'll just
Or
stop
would that
my
be?
share.
Is that fine?
I think so. Yeah. Do you have?
Yeah, I have it pulled up.
Perfect.
All right, you guys see my. Do you guys see my screen? Perfect. All right. So hello, everyone. And staying safe. This is Mazen Alamri. I am a student at the mechanical engineering department. I'm doing mechanical engineering major and double minoring in sustainability and management. So last semester I had an opportunity to take a class about energy conversion. So that was with Professor David Kittleson. He's the director of Thomas Murphy Engine Lab. So they have like very sophisticated instruments that measure engine performance and emissions. So we were lucky enough to use that lab and also use it for our lab reports and experiment. That took up what we've learned, took it further into more research on topics of our own desire. And since I care about the environment, I chose diesel emissions. If you ask me why I chose diesel, so unlike gasoline engine, it has more compression ratio, which produces a lot of heat, and that produces a lot of nitrogen oxides. So nitrogen oxides is a group of 7, if I can show you here. So it's a group of 7, so nitrogen oxides are also is known as NOx. It's a group of 7 gases. The most 2 common ones that are hazardous are nitrogen dioxide, and these are very, very harmful for the environment and human. This is why the selective catalytic reduction has been invented and started around 2010. It uses so the way how it works, it uses ammonia to bond with NOx, nitrogen dioxide, and so this is some of the ideal reaction, and then it reacts also with oxygen and produces nitrogen and water, and also so this is NOx emission up to 90%, and so yeah, so also, so here, if we, so the CSR system is this part of the exhaust, and the ammonia or urea solution is injected, and then when it's heated, it breaks out into parts and ammonia, and that's in here in the catalytic. They bond together and produces safe gases. So this system is temperature sensitive, so it needs to be, it needs to rise to a certain, it gets up to 90% efficiency if it's at 40 Celsius, 400 Celsius, I'm sorry, and this is about 750 Fahrenheit. So yeah, so if the only way to pass the emission standards, the EPA and the California emission standards nowadays is definitely has to be an after treatment system like this one. And also I actually have for a gasoline engine, there's only catalytic converters, and I have one here. So yeah, that to take away from this presentation is that these systems has to get warm, really, really hot in order to work. So most of the emissions are usually at the beginning when you start the car and in a cold start. So if you want to take an action of reducing the emissions that comes from your vehicle, if you have an internal combustion engine, is please, before like you put your foot on the pedal, let it warm a little bit. So modern catalytic converter takes about 2 to 3 minutes to warm up and be effective. So yeah, this is about it, and let me know if you have any questions.
Oh, hello, this is Greg. So good talk. One thing I have a question about is, do you have to refill the system to keep on having this?
So for the selective catalytic reduction.
Yeah,
for
so the SCR, yeah.
SCR. So it comes. It's like these are actually implemented in cars, starting from diesel cars. Some of the companies, starting from 2010 and now, and actually, so you, if you have a diesel truck or something, there's two places where you can fill liquids, like you have gasoline and also you have this solution to fill, and it's about $5 per gallon, 500 miles. So
I'm sorry, I don't know if I broke up, but I wasn't able to hear you.
Oh, okay.
So you said you buy something for $5, and then I couldn't hear after that.
Yes, so it's actually implemented in some of the cars. Some of the companies actually have this system. So this is great. The only thing that you have is to buy the solution. It's a Euro solution actually, and then you fill it to your car, and it lasts about up to 500 miles. So these are for modern vehicles.
Hi, Mazen. This is Mindy. I was wondering if you had any thoughts on the rollback of emissions requirements that were proposed to be rolled back, and how that might affect this type of research to make selective catalytic reduction systems.
Yes. So I don't know if you guys know, Trump tried to take down and revoke the California emission standards, where they setting plan, and it will get up to, so in 2026, they want to get the cars more efficient and more emits less emissions, and so Trump is trying to revoke that. I think what he's saying is that would make cars cheaper, and they produce more. So so it would be great if we still follow the California emission standards and still implement such systems like that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We're going to move on to our next presentation now. Mazen, could you quit your screen share, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
There we go.
Perfect. All right. Next up is Thomas. I'll get your presentation ready and then you can go whenever you're set. Okay, Thomas, whenever you're ready. Actually, is Thomas on the call?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm here.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So I'm presenting the LLC that I have for you guys here today is called Conveniently Green. And just to recap quickly, I'm sure everybody here already know that we have a pretty big plastic problem in our world. In the US alone, we produce about 35 million tons of plastic waste annually, and 4.8 to 12.7 million tons per year enter the ocean. So this causes a lot of problems for wildlife, and it also causes problems for humans, because microplastic will find its way up the food chain to us, which will cause health problems for humans. But it kills a lot of marine animals every year. 100,000 marine mammals die annually because of plastic. And just a personal story, many years ago, I volunteered for humpback whales researchers in Alaska. And there were pictures of when they do necropsies on these huge 40-ton animals, when they cut up their stomach, just completely filled with plastic. And it really is a problem that we have to address. But one of the problems that we face today is that there's a lack of options for consumers and businesses, not only because a lot of these alternatives that we have are expensive and it also are energy intensive to produce, but also they're just not easily accessible. So my solution here is our product from Conveniently Green is the first thing that we have on our book are these straws made out of wild grass that grow naturally in many different places in the world, Vietnam included, which is where the people who are producing them, I'm shipping them from Vietnam at the moment. They're wild, there's no deforestation, we're not clearing forests and planting something else. They grow very quickly and they are biodegradable. There's very little processing, we just cut them up and treat them for safety. And the short-term solution is to produce, to give businesses and consumers options to access easy and green products such as wild grass straws, bamboo toothbrushes, banana leaf wrappings, to reduce the amount of plastic that we consume. But the long-term goal is that using this company to self-fund a nonprofit organization where we invest in education, we invest in the well-being of farmers so that they're more able to lead a greener lifestyle and they don't have to rely on destroying the habitats in which they live. Also, if the company grows to a certain amount of financial strength, then we could also act as a legal protection against big corporations. So based on some very rough calculation, if I invest $100,000 a year into the market, at 10% return in 100 years, the organization would be worth $21 billion. And 4% of that every year would equate to about $800 million in which we could use to invest in communities and we could use to make sure that corporations don't get out of line and hurt the environment. And of course, this is a very long-term goal, a long-term project. I actually planned this project out about 150 years. So it's way past my lifetime, but right now we're at the short-term solution, the second step where we lay the foundation so we could build an organization that could effectively protect the environment and invest in the communities that could benefit most and protect the environment. And that's it.
Okay, I guess I have a question about the short-term solution. So it looks like using wild grass straws. How effective are those? Did those get soggy pretty quick, or?
No, they do not. Actually, if you're interested, I could, once the virus blow over, I could bring you samples, but I actually used one for 2 weeks. So after I use them, wash them a little, put them in a cup of water, and they just keep for a long time. They're not brittle like paper straws, and they keep their integrity really well.
Hey, Thomas, this is Tim. Thanks for your presentation. Are there other more long-term examples that your company is thinking of or working on, or more packaging sorts of things? I know that banana leaf wrappings are a form of alternative packaging.
So right now, the only thing that we have are wild grass straws, and we plan on getting that to restaurants and small businesses in Minnesota. And we also plan on expanding into rice straws, bamboo toothbrushes, because when you go to a hotel and they give you those toothbrushes or combs, they're all made out of plastic. And so that's the thing in which we plan on eliminating in the short term. Long term, my goal is to invest, not only have this business that produced income and revenue, but we also plan on investing in the US economy, which historically has been a very safe bet, and growing it so that it will be able to sustain a nonprofit organization without being reliant on government fundings or charity from external sources, so that we're not susceptible to political pressure.
Yes, thank you. I see. I appreciate that.
Thomas, this is Mindy. I was wondering if you've done any testing with folks about the presentation, or sometimes people complain about the taste of like a paper straw versus like a wild grass straw. Is there a taste, or what's like the feel of the banana leaves as a wrap, or could you use those as plates like at an event? Just like if you've done any testing with consumers.
Actually, in Vietnam, these are very, very widespread. Pretty much every mid to upscale restaurant that you go to in Vietnam, and even in Thailand and many countries in Southeast Asia, they have completely switched to grass straws, rice straws, and banana leaf wrappings. So it really, from my understanding, is that people don't really mind. The grass straw does have a faint taste, but my testing in the US so far for US consumers, they say that it just tastes like they're drinking a tea. But when you drink a flavored drink, then there's no taste at all. It does not change the taste of your drink, and you wouldn't notice the taste of the straw. But we also have an alternative to the grass straw, which is the rice straw, which has no taste. And that is something for people who cannot stand the taste of these grass straws. And those are actually cheaper than the grass straws too. But of course they require more production, so it's a whole different environmental issue that comes with rice straws.
That's helpful to know, thanks.
Then I also have a question about the grass straws. Do you know what the cost of a straw is, and how much is labor intensive versus, could automate it?
So right now we're in the US, we're selling 100 straws for $6.50. So they're about 65 cents a straw. But that's after tax and shipping and all of those costs. And right now, because we're so small scale, we haven't really shipped a lot over. That's the price that we're looking at. In terms of production energy requirement, Leperonia articulata it's a wild grass. It grows all over the places in swampy areas around the world. They grow very, very fast. And all we do is we cut them up, we chop them up, and we treat them. And actually, our product is approved by Eurofin, which does have a representation in Minnesota. And so it really is not energy intensive at all to produce, compared to, say, plastic straws or rice straws.
And is the harvesting procedure basically kind of what's shown in that picture, right? Is someone's going through cutting down grass and bundling them?
Yes. And those are, we're not cleaning out natural habitat to plant these. They grow by themselves and they spread just like any natural grass around, it's not like we're causing deforestation to plant these. They just grow naturally in these habitat, and we go and we harvest them. And they grow so rapidly that we're not causing big problems. And of course, we also want it to be sustainable so we could maintain our business in the long term.
All right, thank you, Thomas. We're going to move on to our final presentation, which is Priscilla. You can go ahead and cue up your presentation when you're ready.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. Can you all see my screen? I'm
Yes.
sharing it right now.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I will present. So my name is Priscilla Trinh. I'm a second year student at CFEN studying Sustainable Systems Management, and today I'm going to talk to you about Snapcrash. So initially, it was a paper assignment for an honor seminar I took called Reality 101, A Survey of the Human Predicament, and it was supposed to be 2 to 3 pages, and I thought that was impossible, so I wrote a 60-page book instead. And because it's so long, I figured it'd be torturous to have you all scroll through it, so if right now you want to pull out your phone and type this link into Google or Safari, so while you're doing that, that's how you get to the creative work that I'm talking about. And as you're doing that, I will give a little background on the concept of it and why I chose the name. And once anyone gets into it, please let me know in the chat box that you can access it. So Snapcrash is obviously a playoff of social media and Snapchat, the app. Human history is in itself very short in the grand scheme of things, and Snapchat itself is based on the whole concept of ephemerality. It's very short, and in terms of history, I don't want the human history to go crashing down, right? And I'm also inviting young people, especially when they read this book, it's geared towards middle schoolers and high schoolers, for them to adopt filter culture. Everyone's using lenses and filters to change how they look and how they perceive the world. And when you're reading this book, I want people to assume a filter of sorts in viewing how they view the world. So yeah, and people access it, just give like a little thumbs up or something. Cool. So next, a little fun fact, my professor was also featured in Jeff Bridges' documentary Living in the Future's Past. And when I turned in my paper, my professor forwarded it to Jeff, and then Jeff said, hey, can I feature in my newsletter? I'm like, sure, why not? So it's all about in the vein of creating new narratives. It's about creating stories for people to latch onto, because narratives are super powerful in imagining the future and how people view the world. And so going off of that, Snapcrash is the same thing. It's for young people to be invited into an educational view of reality. I want to dispel some myths within the education system, right? I don't want young people to wait until high school or college to understand the energetic underpinnings of our society, or even just basic concepts of ecology. So reading this book, again, like inviting people to reimagine what the future can look like. What does a post-carbon future look like? Whether you're a student, a parent reading it to their child, or a teacher, it's really just an exercise in imagination. And from that discussion, I hope to instigate like a cultural evolution, like narratives shape how we view the world, and that can shape our behavior, and human behavior in itself will eventually shape how society behaves. So that's what I have on Snapcrash. I have a lot more to say, but I'm excited to hear what your thoughts are, and I'm excited to answer any questions. Thank you.
Priscilla, this is Mindy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going through and reading just initially, your presentation is really hopeful. Sorry, I have a thing on there. Your presentation is really hopeful, and I liked how you started with like, I just want people to be around for a long time. Is the theme of the book kind of hopeful throughout? Just as a first glance, just wondering.
Yeah, as hopeful as existential can be, it's a lot of it focuses on human behavior and energy and how it underpins a lot of our economies, societies, and the way we live. So it's really more exploratory, just kind of laying out basic concepts in a palatable way, hopefully. And it does end on a hopeful note because I'm not here to tell people how to think or tell people how to live. It really is just a filter, a lens, right? Something you can adopt, just like on social media. It's totally voluntary. And I'm just trying to explain things in a more novel way. I'm not trying to be like all the other things out there that are talking a lot about the environment and climate change. There's a lot of documentaries about the dreadful destruction of the earth. So this is more just like a macro view of this is just the way things are, and take it as you will, right? It's just another lens for you to look at the world in.
It looks really interesting, and I can't wait to look through it. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, and just to make sure I got the message here. So yeah, I was looking for the book. So the idea is that it's this book that you have that people can look through, and it's presented in a way that's, you know, maybe more relevant or connecting to people to get them to think about ideas.
Yes, it's a very rough form of a message that I want to put out there. So yeah, it's really just like a little node of information. Yes. And dude, I thought about putting it on Snapchat as a discovery channel. You know, if you're familiar with the app, you can just like click through it. It's got like a YouTube video, but more self-paced. But this is the message. I don't know what form it will take if I intend to pursue it.
Priscilla, this is Tim. I've been looking through the book also. You might have said this and I missed it. How at this point, how are you planning to get this distributed to have young people especially have access to it?
Of course, right now it's a free floating file. I've had people ask me if they can send it to their grandchildren. I'm like, sure, go ahead. It's definitely nowhere near the final form. I had people in Vancouver reach out to me and they brought it down to Columbia to an ecological charter school, and the charter school is pretty receptive. And so yeah, it has some public testing going on, but I don't want this to be the final form. I'm considering maybe breaking it into more of a book series, so each book could focus on a different aspect, like human behavior, oil, energy, environment, economy. So this is super condensed, and I'm not completely satisfied, but for now I'm going to hold on to it because I don't know if I want it as a book form, as a video series, or as a social media campaign. Right now I'm happy to distribute to anyone who wants a copy of it as it is, but I am not proactively on a publishing campaign, if that's what you mean.
Great, thank you.
Really interesting way to present deep systems thinking stuff. So congrats.
Thank you.
Are all the images basically from, I don't know, the web or?
They are. There are some copyright issues with this. I know I'm playing off Snapchat and Google Images. I edited the things themselves, the images, to make them transparent. But yes, this is all public domain work. Yeah, a lot of credit goes to the professor, Nate Higgins, and the decades of research he put in, and the co-writers of the material that have affiliations with Greenpeace. They're all instrumental in shaping how I put this together.
All right, should we go ahead and take our group photo?
Awesome, thanks for listening.
Okay, so everybody, this is Beth Mercer-Taylor, and I'm gonna attempt this photo. So I guess turn on your screen and think happy thoughts about your favorite pet or loved one, and I'll take a few of these. So Anna, do we have everybody? Jess or Anna, is everybody here who should be?
I'm not able to start my video.
Let's try.
Hang on, I won't. I'll wait. I'm waiting.
That help, Tim?
Okay, that should do it. Thank you.
It looks like most of our presenters left. So
Well, I'm just gonna go for it.
Okay.
Presenters, think about your favorite pet. And let me take a photo. This is exciting. Yes, Lily is smiling. I love it. Okay.
wait, can we get
Another
Greg
one.
or Gregory? Can you turn your video on?
There we go.
Yay. Okay, try it again. Yay. I guess I'm off, but that doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you, people. This is great. We look beautiful. What a fantastic and diverse panel. I think are we running late to go to break? We have a
We're fine.
15-minute
Well,
break.
it is, but thank you, judges and presenters, for your time today.
And
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
wrap up with cash prizes. So you want to begin? Thank you, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you, presenters.
Bye.